الله أكبر. مدينة دوما. طائرات النظام المجرم من نوع غريب يرسمون أشكالا الله أكبر. الله أكبر. مدينة دوما. طائرات من نوع غريب تلقي خلفها دخانا أبيض. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. مدينة دوما. طائرات أسدية من نوع غريب تلقي أشياء غريبة على الغوطة الشرقية. بسم الله ونعم الوكيل. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل. أشياء غريبة تلقيها طائرات النظام. الغوطة الشرقية.
يعني غريبة إنه 203 صاروا داخل.
سبحان الله.
اخترقت طائرات حربية إسرائيلية مجالنا الجوي فجر اليوم، وقصفت بشكل مباشر أحد مراكز البحث العلمي المسؤولة عن رفع سوية المقاومة والدفاع عن النفس الواقع في منطقة جمرايا بريف دمشق، وذلك بعد أن قامت المجموعات الإرهابية بمحاولات عديدة فاشلة وعلى مدى أشهر بالدخول والاستيلاء على الموقع المذكور. وفي التفاصيل، فقد قامت طائرات حربية إسرائيلية تسللت من منطقة شمال مرتفعات جبل الشيخ بعلو منخفض وتحت مستوى الرادارات، وتوجهت إلى منطقة جمرايا بريف دمشق، حيث يقع أحد الأفرع التابعة لمركز البحوث العلمية، ونفذت عدوانها السافر بقصف الموقع، ما تسبب بوقوع أضرار مادية كبيرة وتدمير بالمبنى، إضافة إلى مركز تطوير الآليات المجاور ومرآب السيارات، ما أدى إلى استشهاد 2 من العاملين في الموقع وإصابة 5 آخرين، قبل أن ينسحب الطيران المعادي بالطريقة نفسها التي تسلل فيها. ويضيف البيان أنه بالتالي لا صحة لما أوردته بعض وسائل الإعلام بأن الطائرات الإسرائيلية استهدفت قافلة كانت متجهة من سوريا إلى لبنان، بل تؤكد القيادة العامة للجيش والقوات المسلحة أن الطائرات الإسرائيلية استهدفت منشأة للبحث العلمي في اختراق سافر للسيادة والأجواء السورية.
Syrian state TV has been showing images of what they say is last Wednesday's Israeli airstrike on a military research centre northwest of Damascus. Now, the pictures reportedly show damage to the centre and a lineup of charred vehicles, which witnesses said were used to carry employees. The research centre is close to the border with Lebanon. Israel has maintained an official silence over the attack.
The Israeli defense minister has today hinted for the first time that his country was behind this week's attack on Syria. Talking at a Munich security conference, Ehud Barak suggested his nation's warplanes targeted a Syrian arms convoy headed for Lebanon. Let's get more now from RT's Paula Sleer, joining us live from Tel Aviv here. And Paula, good to see you today, and thanks for coming on so quickly. We've had the comments from Ehud Barak, and now we're just hearing straight from Syrian TV that President Bashar al-Assad is saying that Israel is trying to destabilize his country. What do you know?
Well, as you say, this is the first public comment from an Israeli official over the alleged Israeli strike into Syrian territory last week. It does come from the Israeli Defense Minister Ehud Barak, and he has said that it is proof that when Israel says something, it means it. He did stop short of actually affirming Israel's involvement. Now, US officials have said that the strike targeted an arms convoy that was carrying anti-aircraft weapons from Syria to Lebanon. According to the Israeli Defense Minister Ehud Barak, he said that we do not think, and I'm quoting, that Syria should be allowed to bring advanced weapons systems into Lebanon. It is important to make the point that his comments does not constitute acknowledgement of Israel's involvement in the strike, but it certainly does suggest the possibility that it took place and it was responsible for it. Barak also said that the Syrian President Bashar Assad's fall is imminent and that it would serve as a major blow to Hezbollah and Iran. Now, as you say, Syrian state television is reporting that Assad has said that Israel plans to destabilize his country. He also made the point that Syria is able to confront any kind of aggression.
So, Paula, the Israeli defense minister hinting certainly that his nation's warplanes were behind the attack on whether it was a Syrian arms convoy headed to Lebanon or whether it was a Syrian research center, that's yet to be confirmed. But if indeed Israel's attack is taken at face value, do you think there are any dangers now of repercussions?
Well, certainly there are dangers of repercussions, which is why we need to look at this Israeli strategy. And it's a strategy that Israel has employed in the past, and that is namely a strategy of silence. It is strategic. It doesn't give any kind of confirmation or any kind of denial. What Israel has done in the past is launch an attack, then leave. And its response has been a no comment, which really leaves the question in observers' minds. It is a calculated move because this silence allows Israel's enemies to save face and thus reduce the risk of reprisal and escalation against the Jewish state. The silence also smooths Israel's discreet cooperation with its Muslim neighbors. And here I'm talking, for example, about Turkey and Jordan, who, if Israel had to come out forefront and publicly and acknowledge that they'd carried out such a strike, for example, against Syria, these countries might feel bound to distance themselves and perhaps work against Israel. Israeli leaders also benefit from not publicly acknowledging involvement and trumpeting over successes that might give their public or indeed their Western allies an exaggerated faith in their capabilities. And here I'm referencing also to the repeated warmongering we hear from Tel Aviv over a possible attack over Tehran. Now, it is an open secret that Israel cannot launch any kind of attack without US involvement. So the analysis often is that by making such warmongering statements, Israel's really just trying to fend off an attack that it actually wouldn't be able to carry out. Of course, the international fallout from any kind of Israeli strike in Syria or in Iran would create immense arguments in the international community. We've heard, for example, from Moscow, who says that if indeed Israel did carry out the strike, it was an attack on a sovereign state, and as such, it breached international law. So Israel, of course, will not want to come out publicly and acknowledge that it carried out such a strike because it would not want to have the kind of diplomatic complications and diplomatic fallout that would follow from such an admission.
Well, certainly, Paula, as you say, but as we try and get absolute confirmation that this was an Israeli strike inside Syrian territory, according to Syrian TV right now, President Bashar al-Assad has said that Syria is capable of confronting any aggression. We'll just have to see how this all plays out. RT's Paula Sleer, thank you.
While Iranian officials call the assault a clear violation of Syria's sovereignty, the Iranians also said that there will be repercussions. U.S. officials confirmed the Israeli airstrike on a Syrian convoy, which they say was likely attempting to transfer weapons, including anti-aircraft missiles capable of shooting down Israeli jets, and they were transferring those weapons, according to these reports, to Hezbollah fighters in Lebanon. While the Syrian regime claims Israel attacked a military facility near Damascus, but we can't get that anywhere else. Iran and Syria both support Hezbollah, which has called the attack an act of barbaric aggression.
أي هجوم على سوريا هو هجوم على إيران. تصريح جاء على لسان مستشار قائد الثورة الإسلامية علي أكبر ولايتي في توقيت اعتبر ردا على بعض الأصوات الإقليمية التي طالبت بتسليح المعارضة السورية لخلق نوع من التكافؤ العسكري حسب المصادر الإيرانية.
It was more than a full day since Israeli fighter bombers tore through the skies over Syria to blow a Syrian research center to smithereens, killing and wounding several people in full violation of international law. Despite hundreds of worldwide reports naming the Israeli Air Force in the attack, UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon still had not issued any reaction by noon on Thursday.
What we have to see is what happened before the Secretary General makes a statement, and that statement is in the works right now, but we're investigating exactly what happened. We have media reports, and that's fine, but we're considering what's happened, and once we have that information, we will come up with a statement.
What happened is that a research center outside of Damascus was hit, killing 2 people, according to Syrian officials. While the UN was considering what's happened, Russia, China, Iran, and others spoke out, condemning the Israeli airstrike, with the Russians calling it an unjustified assault and a blatant violation of the UN Charter. The guardian of that charter, Ban Ki-moon, finally pushed out a reaction shortly after noon on Thursday with a toothless statement voicing concern, but saying that the UN doesn't have details of the incident, nor is it in a position to verify. Del Boit received the note in the middle of his noon briefing.
Syrian authorities protested to the UNDOF force commander that Israeli planes had flown over the area of separation. UNDOF did not observe any planes flying over the area of separation and therefore was not able to confirm the incident. UNDOF also reported bad weather conditions. Ban's statement typically called on all parties to de-escalate tensions and abide by international law. Now, Ban has condemned bombing attacks and illegal arrests across the world, sometimes with blazing speed in places like the Central African Republic and even Syria. But his reaction time is slower and his words more measured when the protagonist is Israel, a fact that was clear in his muted response to the latest Israeli attacks on Gaza and in this attack on Syria. Pakistani Ambassador Masood Khan has served all month as UN Security Council President and seemed to realize exactly what had happened regarding the attack. Asked about the incident today, he said he had received a note from Syrian Ambassador Bashar Jafari on Thursday morning, but that it didn't request any action. He says the Council will keep up to date on the situation.
Well, things are developing very rapidly. This incident has taken place. We have received a communication from the permanent representative of Syria. The council members are aware of the situation, and it is the preference of the council members. In fact, they've been working on this for a long time, that there should be stability in the region, that this region should not become more volatile, and they would give due consideration to this development.
One can bet that Syria and Iran will give it due consideration as well, with Iran calling the airstrike a clear violation of Syria's sovereignty, while Syria said that Israel itself would be responsible for any repercussions. Hank Flynn, Press TV, New York.